The other day, I talked to a contractor who lost $62,000 in 7 minutes. And the crazy part is that he thought he already won the job. Husband was ready to sign, they were picking paint colors and talking start dates. But then the wife came home from work, and one conversation later, the dude's walking to the truck with his tail between his legs. And here's what pisses me off. He still doesn't know what he did wrong. If you've been in this game for more than a week, most likely you've experienced this. We need to think about it that comes completely out of nowhere. The estimate that felt like a done deal suddenly going cold. The husband who was all in, who ghosts you after talking to the wife. And you blame it on price, or maybe the economy, or they were just tire kickers. But that's wrong. You got spouse vetoed. And most likely you created the situation yourself. I'm Stash with S&C Digital, and I've trained enough contractors to recognize this pattern instantly. And I've heard this exact story with different names and different dollar amounts more times than I care to admit. This spouse veto bull. It's killing more deals than your price ever will. But here's the good news. Once you understand the game being played, it's actually pretty easy to prevent. So let me show you exactly what happened in that house. And more importantly, how to make sure it never happens to you. So contractor shows up Tuesday at 2 p.m. Husband Dave answers the door, but wife Michelle is still at work. No problem, Dave says. I handle all this stuff anyway, which is red flag number one. But our guy unfortunately just doesn't catch it. Because Dave seems confident, acts like he's in charge, so the contractor buys it. And they spend the next 90 minutes becoming best friends, talking sports, measuring the basement, cracking jokes. Look, Dave's excited at this point. Like, this is gonna be sick. The guys are gonna love watching games down here. And then the contractor presents the quote, $62,000, and Dave doesn't even flinch. When can you start? Dave says, which money shot, right? You think? Wrong. Because at 3:47 p.m., Michelle walks in. Here's the exact exchange. Michelle, oh, you're still here? Dave, yeah, babe, check this out. We're doing the basement. Michelle, can I talk to you for a second? And then they disappear into the kitchen. The contractor's standing there awkwardly, just looking at the paint samples. He can hear muffled voices, but her tone is pretty sharp. Dave's trying to explain something. 2 minutes later, Dave comes back, just a different energy. He's deflated and avoiding eye contact. Hey man, we're gonna need to think about this. Our contractor's confused now. He says, no problem. What questions can I answer? But Dave won't even look at him. No, we're good. We'll call you. And they didn't call him. Look, here's what actually happened in that kitchen. Michelle said something like, you're about to spend $60,000 without even asking me? And that's it. That's the whole conversation. The deal wasn't killed by price. It wasn't killed by competition. It was killed by disrespect. And the contractor created that dynamic. Before we go further, make sure to hit like and subscribe, because I promise you, your competition just isn't learning this stuff. Here's what you need to understand. When you sell to only one spouse, you're not just missing half the audience, but you're actively creating conflict in their relationship. Put yourself in Michelle's shoes for a second. She's worked a full day, comes home exhausted, and finds a stranger in her house. Her husband's making a decision that affects their money, their home, and their life. But nobody asked her opinion. Nobody valued her input. She wasn't even invited to this conversation. How would that make you feel? Pissed off, right? She's not being difficult. She's not being a controlling wife. She's responding to being disrespected, even though you never intended it that way. Here's the 4 fatal mistakes that he made and you're probably making. Mistake number 1 is believing I make the decisions. Almost nobody makes $60,000 decisions unilaterally, at least not in a healthy relationship. When Dave says, I handle this stuff, here's what's actually happening. He's trying to seem important in front of you, and he doesn't want to admit that he needs permission. Or he's about to learn a very expensive lesson about his marriage. Your response should never just be something like, great, let's do this. It should be, I totally get that, Dave, but for a project this size, I've learned it works better when both homeowners hear everything directly from me. When's Michelle available? I'm happy to come back. Ideally, you do this before so you don't have to drive back. Now, you're not questioning his authority here, you're just being helpful, and it really does make a big difference. Mistake number 2, you're presenting to an empty chair. Every time you present to one spouse, you're asking them to become a salesperson. Dave has to go sell Michelle on your ideas with zero expertise, zero credibility, and zero ability to answer her questions. Dave's gonna fumble it every single time, and even worse, now Michelle's upset with Dave and most likely suspicious of you, so you just lost twice. Mistake number 3 is the she doesn't care trap. My wife doesn't care about this stuff. She lets me handle it, Dave says. Biggest lie in contracting and, people in general. She cares. She just cares about different things. Dave's thinking square footage, materials, how sick it's gonna look. She's thinking, how much disruption to the house is this gonna be? Strangers in her space for weeks, and whether this is really the best use of their savings, or if their kid's college fund is gonna get raided. You need both perspectives to close the deal. Mistake number 4 is gender assumptions. Unfortunately, I've seen male contractors completely ignore the wife, even when she's there. They talk only to the husband, then they act shocked when she kills the deal. And I've also seen female contractors make the opposite mistake. They only engage with the wife, husband feels emasculated, and the deal dies. You can't assume who cares just based on gender. I've met wives who know more about construction than most contractors, and husbands who only cared about paint colors and throw pillows. Every combination you can imagine. You need to read the actual humans in front of you and not stereotypes. Here's your new approach. I call it the triangle sell. You're not selling to him, you're not selling to her, you're selling to them. The unit, the partnership, the team. Your job isn't to convince individuals, it's to facilitate their mutual decision. Here's how. When they call for an estimate, say this. To give you the most accurate quote, I'd love to have both of you there. That way, everyone hears the same info and I can answer all of your questions at once. What evening works for both of you? If they push back, you could say, I totally understand schedules are tough. Here's the thing, in my experience, the projects that go the smoothest are when everyone's on the same page from day one. Even if one of you isn't involved in all the details, I'd hate for there to be surprises later. Can we find 20 minutes when you're both home? It's not pushy, it's professional. You're preventing problems and you're framing it like you just care about making sure they get their project done the right way. Then when presenting, make sure you use team language. Not, what do you think, Dave? You could say something like, what are you both hoping to achieve here? Not, your wife might not like that. You could say, how do you both feel about this option? Not, let me know what she says. You could say, why don't you two discuss this and I'll follow up with both of you tomorrow. It's a small shift, but a massive difference in how it comes off. You need to make individual connections with both people. Find out what matters to each of them. Maybe Dave's excited about the entertainment setup, but Michelle's worried about the timeline during the holidays. You need to address both out loud and specifically. Dave, for your entertainment area, we'll pre-wire everything here and here so it's clean. Michelle, I heard your concern about Thanksgiving. We'll have the main work done by November 10th, and then after that, it's just paint and cleanup. Now they both feel heard and taken care of, which you would have missed if you just focused on one. But you should never ask for a decision when one spouse is missing, ever. Even if the one who's there is ready to sign, especially if they're ready to sign. I can see you're excited, Dave. Since this is a big investment, why don't you and Michelle review everything tonight? I'll follow up tomorrow afternoon to answer any questions that you both have. You just prevented the kitchen fight and probably saved your deal. Then, if you need a follow-up, include both. Group texts are great for this. Hi, Dave. Hi, Michelle. Thanks for your time yesterday. Email, CC both of them. Phone call, if you reach them, hey, Dave, is Michelle around too? Just want to make sure I answered everyone's questions. It's not complicated. It's just very intentional, and you do have to go the extra step. Look, here's an advanced move that you can use. We call it the separate question approach. Ask each person different questions. Dave, what's your biggest excitement about this project? Michelle, what's your biggest concern? Then you flip it. Michelle, what excites you about this? Dave, any concerns on your end? Now, everyone's heard everything, and nobody feels ganged up on. We have to get both perspectives. And then you look like the most professional contractor they've ever met. Look, I get it. You're a contractor, not a marriage counselor. But here's the reality. Every residential sale involves relationship dynamics. If you ignore them, you lose deals. If you understand them and use them, you can print money. The contractor who lost that $62,000 basement, he's probably still confused about what happened. Still blaming tire kickers, still about the economy. Meanwhile, another contractor who understands this triangle cell approach, he went back when both were home, addressed both of their concerns, got the job at $68,000, not 62, 10% more than the first guy, because he wasn't selling a basement. He was facilitating a couple's decision to improve their home and their life together. Here's your homework. Next estimate you run, pay attention to the dynamics. Who talks more? Who asks the real questions? Who looks uncomfortable? Who's actually in charge? Then use the triangle cell. Schedule with both, include both, address both, and respect both. Do this and close more jobs. Ignore it and keep losing to we need to think about it. Your call. Drop a comment and tell me about a time the spouse veto killed your deal. And if you want the word-for-word scripts for handling the 10 most common couple dynamics, I put together a free Google Doc walking you through exactly how to handle it in detail. You can grab it in the description below. Stop letting the spouse veto kill your deals and go out and make more money. I'll see you in the next one. Stash.